Hey guys, how are you? We're filming another video from Esther's studio. As you can see again, she has this beautiful artwork behind. It's not as good as my other background with the nature. Well, we'll see. Maybe she'll still say hers is better. But so I wanted to kind of talk. Esther, she's launching an app just now, and she's gone through a lot of user testing. And so if you guys are launching a product, if you're creating something new, especially something innovative, maybe not even innovative. If you want to know if your customers like this product, if it makes sense for them. I mean, how do you know that, right? You don't want to discover it from if they complain to you. You don't want to discover at that point, right? So you want to get to know it earlier. So Esther's going to kind of share her case study, her tips, her real experience of what she did for her user testing for her app. And the app is Sociidot. And just tell people a little bit what Sociidot is, and then how you went about testing.
Sure. So Sociidot is an app where you can really envision what your most important goals are. So a lot of the testing I did initially was just on the concept, and what I did was I took different times or conferences where I knew that there would be a diverse crowd of people, and I just tested out three main things. I would just get in front of people and test it out. So for instance, when I was first testing out the concept, I went around asking people, okay, how often do you think about the most important thing in your life? Or how often do you think about really how you want your life to be? And most people said almost never. They never think about it since college. They never really sit and think about it. So that really gave me food for thought of how to build out the app, because they all agreed it was an important thing. They just never did it. And then the second thing I asked people was, how many minutes a day do you spend on what you love doing? And really, I think
Wonderful question, actually.
Over 400 people that I've asked this question said maybe 10 minutes. And there were just a few who said 2 hours a day. No one even went over 2 hours a day. If you think about it, that's really, really astounding. So in my head was when I got all this data, and I thought, if I design a product that helps people spend even 10 more minutes a day on what they love doing, they're going to love the product, because it's going to really help them, and it's going to be an essential thing in their life that's part of something that's meaningful to them. So part of the user testing was just figuring out which angle I should take when I design the app, because the app that I built, I could have designed it in 100 different ways. I mean, it uses positive psychology and brain science principles, and there was really so many different aspects I could have done, and that I could have built 100 different apps. So the user testing helped me narrow down to which way I'm going to go about building this app. And then every single part of building out the app, I tested different things. So one, I would just test the user interface. One, I would test colors. Other tests I would do people understand what to do next? And any problem areas, I added instructions in that were overlays for the first time that people actually use the app. There are so many different areas of the app that I tested out, but I think key things to think about when you do user testing is you have to get in front of enough people where you get an idea. And so it has to be, I always do at least 100.
It's an important point, because often people stop at a very small number. They ask their friends, their mom and dad, and all those guys give like not so objective advice. People stop there, but it was so important to get like a mass of people who will give more objective advice.
Exactly. And then you also want to test out on all different markets. So you may think your app will be good for women. You may think it may be good for men. And initially, when I started building my app, I thought women are going to love this app, and I should just market to women. And over the course of user testing, I actually saw it was 50-50. It wasn't just women, but women had a different reaction to it. And the types of stories that people were creating, it really shocked me, because, during one of my tests, I had 9 guys put in stories about finding the right person in their life, and I would have never expected that. I would have thought the women would have put in those kind of stories. So a lot of the user testing that you do shows you so many things that you never thought of, and it may change the direction in what you do with your app. So I think it's so important, and there's many different ways to do the user testing. I felt like for different phases, just pitching it in front of people and letting them just use it helped a lot. But then when the app started being like, I would say 75% complete, I started a new phase of testing where I actually brought people into the office. I would try to get my team to bring in, we had Thursdays, we set aside Thursdays that every hour we brought in another person and sat down, gave them the app and just saw every single thing they did. And we had an extensive spreadsheet with every single action in the app and saw where people got into trouble, which actions they did, what they liked about it, what they didn't. And that taught us so much. Also, the other thing was we always had partners because one person is not objective, so we had 2 people testing it with every person. And then as a team, we discussed it. So we all right away saw where the problems were, and that went to the coders to fix any issues. And that helped a lot. And, you know, it's not always possible for companies to do this. It's very time consuming, but I think the amount of learning you get from it is so much that it's worth it. I also made sure to read every single book I could find about lean startups, but particularly with apps and development. And there were 2 really good books that helped me. One was called Running Lean, and then one was called Lean User Testing. And that one, they really have even, you know, just forms down to the point of what you put in your questions.
Yeah.
And they're, you know, they go into 3 different types of user testing that you can do. I didn't follow everything exactly. I really took what they had and then customized it for what I thought would work better for me. But they give a lot of good ideas, and all of it helped.
It's very interesting. I love the point that you had people in person come in, because actually it's a little bit, you know, usually I say, you know, I've done a lot of videos about this, but actually I haven't done a video about this, and that is so important because, you know, almost as many times as I've had someone look at my apps and I've observed them use it, like I stood back, they never did what I thought they would do. And I thought, well, it's so obvious, it's so simple, just, you know, do this and press that, and no. And I only realized that when I saw them. And it's really good that you had people like literally come in, you sat down, you step back and you watch them, because that just gives such insight that I would, like, in my experience, always, like, I learned so much from it. And they find a lot of bugs.
Yes, yeah, that is true with the bugs. I think that another thing to think about is making sure that you have the time and the space to do the user testing between the phases that you're coding or designing the product. So when I was designing the product and when I was when the developers were actually building it, I made sure to always put in between every phase of the build at least a week to test it out on users, if not 2 weeks. So we can change anything we needed according to the test results, instead of just, you know, going and building it all out at once with your coders for months and months and months, and then you start testing and then you discover that things are very confusing, or they don't work well, or the users are just not responding. So I encourage everyone to just build in that user testing time into your development process.
Yeah, and there's stuff like A/B testing that you can do, and I'll have links to some A/B testing software in the description of the video. And also, I mean, user testing, it doesn't just, you know, end when the app launches, right?
No.
It's always going on with every feature that you're going to put out.
Yes.
So.
But the user testing is, of course, very different once your product is out. Before, you're trying to figure out what to build and where to put your money and which features to build out. And once the app is actually out there, you have so many other data points that you're trying to, you know, is the launch page working? Is it not? And then you start doing the A/B split test. But then you also have users' download rates, download times, and there's so much more. So you're just going to be adding in a lot more metrics that you're testing for.
Yeah, that's really cool. I really want to thank you for sharing this, because I mean, this is like really good. I mean, guys, if you do not test your product, You do not want your customers to come back to complain to you. I mean,
well, you don't want them putting a bad review on the App Store. Definitely not.
Yeah, and if you have a product which can be rated by users, guess what? That review will never go away, right? And so if you have your business 10 years from now, okay, guess what? That review is going to stay there 10 years from now. So put out a good product and test, because the more you test beforehand, you know, I know it's time consuming. I know we're all impatient. I'm so impatient. You don't even know. But I loved hearing how prudent she was in her approach, because I have actually a lot to learn from her, because I kind of skipped some of those. I skipped some of those things, and I actually learned the hard way. You know, like users didn't like that. You know, I had more of an uphill battle. So guys, definitely test your apps. Use her techniques that she suggested, and actually, if you do some testing, comment on this video. I'd be really curious to hear your experiences. And of course, when is your app launching?
This Tuesday.
This Tuesday. What's the date? Because
November 12th.
November 12th. Guys, get the app. How do you spell that app?
Sociidot. Sociiidot.
Difficult to spell, but I'll have the links to it. I'll have the link to it in the description of the video. So check it out. Esther was so kind to help us. Let's get her app and let's help her in the App Store. Thank you, Esther.
Thanks.
Bye, guys. And please subscribe to this YouTube channel.